Our first guest speaker today is Shane Ryan. Now, with a name like that, it'll come as absolutely no surprise to you that Shane's father, Thomas, is from Ireland, from the town of Portarlington in County Laois. But Thomas left Ireland in the 1980s to live and work in the United States, where his son Shane was born and grew up in Philadelphia in the state of Pennsylvania. And it was there that this Irish-American young man became a swimmer and an Olympian at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. He is selected for the Irish Olympic team to compete this year in Tokyo, and is also a former member of Penn State's men's swim team. Now, while his story centers around his work as an athlete, it has an awful lot to say about focus, resilience, and a winning mindset, and how that can be applied by all of us in our chosen pursuits. And we are delighted that Shane has been able to take some time from his busy training schedule to be with us today for this year's Think Global Awards.
Hi everyone, my name is Shane Ryan. I am an Irish Olympic swimmer. I'm so happy to be part of the Think Global Awards. I am your little speaker today. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about like a little bit about myself and the background, and like kind of just talk about like what everyone else is going through. It's just talking about like resilience and what I've gone through to help me get past the whole pandemic and come out of the lockdowns a bit mentally stronger. And so yeah, hopefully you guys can like, take something away from it and enjoy my speech. Just have a little something for you guys. That's all, nothing too crazy. So yeah, my name is Shane Patrick Ryan, a very Irish name. As you can tell, I do not have an Irish accent. I have dual citizenship with Ireland. I get that from my father's side. My dad is born and raised in Ireland. And he moved over to the States where he met my mom in Philadelphia, which is in Pennsylvania. So it's very cool where that's where they met. It's kind of crazy to think about it, because my dad is 1 out of 10. He's the only one living in the States. So all 9 of them are still living in Portarlington. And then my mom's 1 out of 8, and their whole family's living in the States. So big Irish family on both sides. Even my mom's side has, her grandparents were from Mayo, which is on the other side of the Ireland where I'm from currently at in Dublin, Ireland. So yeah, I'm going to talk about like, kind of some of the stuff I've been through, and I'm a big believer in learning from your past experiences and moving forward and learning from them, and how to like just mature really from them. And that's one thing I'm really good at. I'm able to, see this full situation and take a step back and kind of like evaluate what's good, what's bad, how can I like, benefit from this, or how can I approach this if it's a bad situation. So like, I've been in, certain situations growing up, because growing up, I kind of got picked on a lot because I have ADD, ADHD, and I don't really talk about that a lot. But I'm always a very like, hyper guy. I'm a very, just a chipper guy. I'm always talkative. I'm always, just, as soon as I wake up in the morning, like I'm up, I'm ready to go. So I'm also like, I'm fun to be around. So growing up, like, that was always difficult for me, because my mind was just kind of all over the place and didn't really know what was going on. Also growing up, I had a speech impediment. As you guys can tell, I'm not that bad now. So like that took a long time to get rid of. It took about 3 years to get rid of, but it was a lot of hard work of like, going to like a little class after school to learn and all that stuff. So like that was a really big struggle for me, but I got through that. And then, growing up, being teased about, having ADHD, ADD, being in different classes was definitely a bit difficult. But I mean, I just learned a bit different. That was the main thing. It's just I knew I learned a bit different. I knew there was something a bit off about me. But I took it like that's me. Why be down on myself, and why not just like, accept it for what it is and learn in the way that I can learn. So I'm a very visual learner. I'm a hands-on guy. So I love like just being on top of, doing a certain stroke, or like actually like if we're in like a wood class, I need someone who's there to show me how to do it. And then I need to try to do it myself. So I'm a very visual learner for sure. So yeah, like that was quite hard. So, schooling wasn't the greatest thing for me. I had to work really hard just to get, through school, and it was kind of difficult. I had to stay after, after school. There was study hours where I had to like stay after and redo that. Or even in high school, I even had to like go to school during the summer. I just had to do it just to get to college, whatever it took, just to make sure that I got my education and got through, which is good because I ended up graduating with a degree from Penn State University in sports management. So I'm very happy about that. But yeah, through high school, like it was just just didn't have the right mindset. Everything wasn't there. So that's why I had one of the reasons why I had to go to summer school to retake classes to get my grades up. And everyone knew me as like the swimmer growing up, and it was good to have that. Just making sure that like I had like I was a swimmer, and like but without like I needed to go to school to to continue my swimming and to continue on what I believe I had, which was one day to try to become an Olympian. So going through high school, swimming was a big thing for me. I was part of the U.S. Junior national team for 2 years, made the national team, and then that didn't plan out. Ended up moving over to Ireland, which is a really cool situation because I had my dual citizenship for about, mostly my whole life. And that was really good because my mom was really a big part of that, making sure that I had two passports, had that opportunity whenever it came across to make sure that, like, if there was a chance, I was able to represent Ireland and, in the Olympics, or try to at least. So during the 2015, I made a decision to try to go to the Olympics for Ireland. And how that planned out was, I did make the US national team, ended up, weighing out my options. And I'm like, like, why not take a risk and do something a bit crazy? Why not just take that opportunity and see where it goes? So we got in contact with Swim Ireland, and they were absolutely great with making sure that I was able to get over here and get all the right paperwork, knowing what I had to do. And I made a decision within 2 days of getting in contact with Swim Ireland, because you know what, they were like, yeah, we can do it. You have Irish passport. Yep, move on over. As soon as I got off the plane, I made sure that we went right to a lawyer's office. We ended up getting like signed documents saying like I was here at this time, this day, because from over a year, like a year later, was Europeans in 2016. So I had to make sure I was able to represent, Ireland in that, in that time span. So come moving over was really difficult because, I went from like a big university where we have about 50,000 undergrad students. That's such a big social environment. Also a big team. Like my Penn State team was about 60 people total, men's and women's. So it's like we had a big team. It was a very like team environment. And it was like we were one big family. But I moved away from my friends, my family, everything, just dropped everything. Even like during the time when I made the decision, I still had finals going on. So I had to make sure that like Penn State was going to be able to honor, my scholarship. So I was able to take that year off and then come back to get my degree. So yeah, I moved over, and it was a bit difficult. It was really difficult because I moved away from everyone, moved in with 50 euros in my bank account. I brought a bike over. So that was my only means of transportation. And that was very hard. Because it's like I lived on a like huge campus. Nothing was on it. It was like fields, and it was Irish, like basically the Irish Olympic Center. But now everything's completely built up. But before that, there wasn't anything there. We had an amazing facility, 50-meter pool. We had a little weight room, and that was really it. And it was hard because I lived basically by myself. And I remember walking to practice at 4 o'clock in the morning, cold, rain, snow, and it was really difficult. But like in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is going to be worth it, because it's like all this hard work, walking 2 kilometers to the pool in the woods, and then coming up onto a path, and then getting to the car park, and then into the pool. I'm like, all right, let's get into the water. Let's do that. And then, went back to the house, and, just make sure I like had like, I was trying to eat well. But it was very difficult, during the week, because I was just kind of living for the weekends. Because during the weekends, I would go see my family, and it was a great opportunity for myself to go down and reconnect with my Irish family in Port Arlington. So I would either get one of my coaches to drop me off at the train station or bike to the train station. And then every time when I would get one of my uncles or aunts, they would drive me back down and we would go food shopping, and like that would I would have to get all the food for my 1 week. So I was able to kind of survive. Like I was surviving there. And it was really difficult to manage, the finances, the really the loneliness of it too. Cause I remember just like being in that house, and the house wasn't great. It was an old moldy house. Every time you walked in, your whole face would just get completely the sinuses would just clog up. And it had a certain smell to it as well, which is very distinct. So I remember just sleeping just to pass the time. And it was always just chicken and pasta or beef and pasta. That were the only things I was really eating, and just some veg. So it was difficult. And as the closer and closer as the Olympics came up, I was able to go on to more trips, get out of the house. But it was really, really rough. And I was in a really bad place because I was a little basically depressed during that whole time. But at the end of the day, I knew what I was sacrificing. I sacrificed, being in my comfort zone, and I could have just stayed at Penn State and done nothing, but I wanted to put myself in a situation where I'll have a lifetime of memories and lifetime experiences and meeting new friends. It's that's one of the reasons why I chose what I did. So, as I went through that, it was hard, but I got through it, and everything was good, and ended up, going through and made the Olympics. I was at the time, was the very first ever Irishman to qualify for the Irish Olympic team in swimming in Ireland. So that was very good. And then we ended up going to Rio, which was absolutely amazing. And for me to move on was I had to swim the best time in the morning at the very first race to make semifinals. So for my very first swim, Olympics, I made semifinals. I was entered in 14th at the time. And yeah, it was such an amazing experience walking out there and knowing that all that hard work, the family, your coaches, your friends have sacrificed, all paid off. And then that ended up becoming I love that, all that hard work and everything, that it just paid off, because that started a whole train of, now I am a gold medalist in the World University Games, a two-time European medalist, a world medalist, Ireland's first ever world medalist, and soon to be a two-time Olympian, and one of the fastest, swimmers ever in my events. So it's a really, really cool how everything kind of played out. So, going through everything, going to worlds, then, and then going to Europeans, winning the medals. And then as soon as over a year ago, we were in the airport with the whole pandemic. What happened? We were at the airport, about to go to Edinburgh in Scotland, and we get word that in Ireland, all the schools were shut down. And my coach made a decision. We're yep, we're not going on this trip. We did not go on the trip. We ended up going back. We swam a little bit at the pool, and then everyone went home. And after that, things just got a little bit weirder, a little bit weirder, a little bit weirder. And then we're just wow, what's going to happen? Things are getting really, really bad. What is this new virus? What's going on? And it ended up being COVID-19, the pandemic started really happening, and, things started getting shutting down. And then all of a sudden we find out at practice, our director, John Rudd, ended up coming in and telling us yeah, the Irish Olympic trials have been canceled. And we're okay, that's fine, but what about the Olympics? And I'm in my mind, I'm surely not. They're not going to do that. And not at that time, because we weren't wearing masks at the time. There wasn't anything really big to support it. There wasn't even tests at the time. So we're okay. We had our last practice on a Thursday, and we find out Friday afternoon that the whole country of Ireland is going into lockdown. We didn't know for how long or anything like that, but it was devastating. And at the time, all we knew was that the trials has gotten canceled. And then a week later, we find out that the Olympics had gotten canceled. And that was hard. That was really, really hard, because it's just 4 years, 4-year blocks of all the hard work and training. You're well, what's going to happen? We everything was in the air. We didn't know what was going on. And at that moment, from all my past experiences, I was like, you know what? I need to make a decision. I took a step back and I realized, I was like, okay, like, what do I do? Like, I'm going to be in lockdown. First, I was living by myself. So the lockdown ended up being about 3 months. I lived by myself during those 3 months. So that was pretty difficult, but it was good, because I made the decision of, okay, everyone else is in the same situation. Everyone who's qualified for the Olympics, fine, cool. They aren't in the water as well. So it's like, my competitors, how am I going to come out of this better than my competitors? How am I going to come out mentally stronger? Like, what can I do? Okay, so I got weights, I got a stationary bike, and the things that I can control is my nutrition. So I ended up planning out, working out 4 hours every single day. I made sure that I eat pretty well. I made sure I was like tailored to what I was like. So lowered the carbs a little bit more protein, making sure that I like, made sure I came out stronger and mentally stronger as well. My coach and my teammates here in Dublin made sure that, we were on a schedule, how important it was to be on a routine, making sure that we were doing little things every single day to, just to make ourselves better. So we make a checklist, like I call it the snowball effect. So like every time when I wake up in the morning, I make my bed, because that's one thing that's done. And you do the next thing and the next thing, and the next thing. And like, I kind of have up on my wall, I have a little saying, it's like, if you can do it in 60 seconds, do it. So that was the one thing I lived by during the lockdown, was like, if you can do it in 60 seconds, do it. So like washing the dishes, doing laundry, picking up something or anything like that. Cause just all these little goals, all these little things can just like, just check them off, check them off, check them off. And it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you get into like a routine. And each day you just try to be better than yesterday. And that's kind of what I lived by during that whole time. And, I actually ended up coming out of lockdown stronger, mentally stronger, and in really good shape. Because after that, that shaped me from going into the summer, then when we got back in the water, into a really good shape, because I was able to jump on the bike. I would throw a movie on for 2 hours and I would just cycle. And I found out that my bike only goes up to 100 kilometers and then it resets. So it was really good that I was able to have those little reminders of like, making sure that I was like making my bed, making sure we had like, like core sessions or workout sessions together, making sure we were having Zoom calls and also having game night, talking to my family. And even during the whole time, during the 3 months, in the very beginning, while I was living by myself, I find out that my family in the States all got COVID, and I was kind of freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm here by myself. What am I going to do? Like my full family, my mom, my dad, brother and sister all got it. And I'm like, no way. So I'm like on the phone with them almost like every other day, checking in on them, seeing how they are. And luckily they all recovered and they're all fine. And we're currently right now, they're all vaccinated, which is great. But it was a really difficult time. It really was. But like I said, you just gotta like, I just woke up and made sure that I was like, no, I'm gonna be better than I was yesterday. So going through that whole time, it was good, because now it's set up. Since then, I was part of this thing called the ISL, which is the International Swimming League. I ended up breaking 6 Irish national records. I was very, very consistent, very, very fast. I scored a lot of good points there. And I also had been nominated for the Olympics in Tokyo as well. So a lot of good things have came out. I'm in the best shape of my life, mentally wise. I'm really, really good, strong as well. Because I'm stuck on those little routines. I got used to having a routine and being better than the day before and the day before. So currently right now, still training. We have Irish trials coming up soon, and then also we have our Europeans as well, which will only be the relays, and then we have Tokyo. So I'm super, super excited to be representing Ireland again. And then I'll be trying to go for the next Olympics, 3 years, only short 3 years after that. And to try to continue and try to be a 3-time Olympian. But as of right now, just taking it day by day, trying to be better than yesterday. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my story. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you so much. And hopefully everyone stays safe.
Well, thank you to Shane. One thing we can, I think, all agree on, that Olympic athletes really do define what it is to have a single-minded focus on a goal and the limits of what's possible. We wish you well in Tokyo this year, Shane, and in your ambitions for the Paris Olympics in 2024.